Hello everybody and welcome to the Daily Splat. Today is video number 9 in our series of 20 reviewing the English Premier League season. Now, today, because we're going through it alphabetically, we're looking at Manchester City. So, before we begin, if you're new to these video reviews, or indeed the Daily Splat in general, first of all, hello. Secondarily, it should be fairly obvious to you even now that I am a Manchester United fan and have been for a very long time. In the scale of my life, at least. I'm 22, so I can't have been a fan for more than 20 years or so. But anyway, that's beside the point. However, I am going to be as unbiased as I possibly can be. They didn't deserve to win. No. Okay, so Manchester City won the English Premier League, which is a great achievement for that club, considering it's been 44 years for the club and about 4 years for the majority of their fans of waiting. It is a tremendous achievement. It only cost them just under £1 billion, 930 billion they've spent on the squad since Sheikh Mansour came in, and that has got them the Premier League title. But how they went about and got it, in terms of the actual quality of football, was pretty impressive. There were games where Manchester City were absolutely unplayable and they were just thrashing teams, particularly at the start of the season. They had a very good start to the season, and they did put in some big performances. Obviously they'll point to the 6-1 victory against Manchester United at Old Trafford as being the highlight of the season, but there were some other very good performances. And in particular, they played pretty well against the big teams. Their home ground was, virtually a fortress. They only dropped points there this season in one game, and that was in the 3-3 draw with Sunderland. And that was, when they were going through a bit of a sticky patch in March. They had a very impressive home record. They beat Chelsea there, they beat Arsenal there, they beat United there, actually doing the double over United. They beat Tottenham there in an absolute thriller, winning 3-2. In and amongst their other big wins, they had 2 big wins against Norwich. They beat Tottenham 5-1 at White Hart Lane, which is a very impressive performance, it has to be said. They did do some brilliant things, and they finished with 89 points. That's 18 more points than they managed the previous season, so there has been a huge improvement under Roberto Mancini. Now, admittedly, that is down to the players he brought in. They finally got a striker in who is reliable and not a tosser in Sergio Aguero. Obviously, Carlos Tevez was the striker who was there before, and whilst he had a great season the season before, obviously there was the whole not coming off the bench thing that put him out of 6 months of football by himself, really. I know Mancini said he'd never play again, but Tevez didn't really seem too fussed by that. His sort of refusal to come back after the New Year period, Mancini said, "Okay, just come back." That could have cost them the title, because he did end up proving fairly important in the running. Obviously, Mario Balotelli, one game brilliant, next game insane, and sometimes brilliant and insane in the same match. And Edin Dzeko, who struggled at times but did get the odd important goal and did score a hat-trick in the game at White Hart Lane, so not a terrible performance. If you can hear just a slight pattering of rain, it's because there's a little bit of a storm going on outside. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, a little bit rainy here, like Manchester, funnily enough, so there we go. So Manchester City end up getting 89 points, same amount of points as United, but winning the title on goal difference. The first time that's happened in, the Premier League's history at least, and claiming their first domestic title in 44 years. So, winning the title, playing exciting football, that's got to get you a score pretty high, and I've decided that their score gets an A-. And you might be thinking, A-? Why is that? Well, the fact of the matter is, they did almost throw it away. In fact, both Manchester sides could be accused of, they should have won the title at certain points. City were as much as 11 points clear of United heading into March. They had a tremendous lead over their rivals, and they actually let it slip to a point where they were 8 points behind, but then managed to recover it to just take it on goal difference. So there is some criticism of their mid-season form. You know, there were games against sort of mid-table sides that they just couldn't get the performances in. Obviously, they lost 1-0 to Everton. They drew 0-0 with West Brom. The 3-3 draw with Sunderland, which we mentioned before. They didn't do. You know, they lost 2-1 to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge and 1-0 to Arsenal at the Emirates. Now, you know, there isn't a huge shame in losing those games, but in future seasons, you know, you need to be able to go with the mentality to the top grounds and get wins. Now, admittedly, they did do that at Old Trafford and White Hart Lane, so, you know, it's not all bad news, but there is an area where they need to look at there. Also, though, they've got to be disappointed with the Champions League. I know they'll say they were very unlucky, and in a way they were. You know, they finished on 10 points but didn't go through because Napoli and Bayern Munich were there, but they should have qualified from that group when you look at the players that they have compared to the players that Napoli have. I know Bayern Munich went on to be runners-up, but you know, they should be getting ahead of Napoli. I know Napoli are a really good team, but I just thought City almost underestimated them, and it was just not a very good campaign. And equally, the Europa League campaign, they didn't seem too bothered about. And I'm not going to criticise them too much on that, because I can understand why. You know, when they were looking at winning the English Premier League title, they went, "Oh, you know what? The Europa League's not as important," type thing. Where they were eventually knocked out by Sporting Lisbon. So, you know, for their slight European failings, and of course failure to progress beyond the third round of the FA Cup, that's because Manchester United beat them. Yeah, silver lining and all that. You know, so there were some downsides this season, but all in all, it has been a very good season for Manchester City. But of course, the interesting question will be to see whether they can keep it up. They have as yet not signed anyone, which is very unusual. I mean, I know the transfer window doesn't technically open until July the 1st, but they haven't announced that they've signed anyone. And I think, to be honest, they're looking at getting in a big name up front, a certain Robin van Persie, perhaps. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But that's a video for another time. So, there you go. That is the Manchester City season review completed. Oh, one other point. Their best player this season was Yaya Toure. When he went missing in January for the African Cup of Nations, that was a big miss for them. And, you know, he proved it with performances later on in the season just how important a player he is. And he is absolutely fantastic as a box-to-box midfielder. And he's one of the few City players that City have bought and he's improved since coming in. You know, quite a few of them have come in and, you know, like Samir Nasri, he's come in and not done brilliantly. You know, you look at players like Dzeko, and he's sort of not performed as well. But there's a couple there that have. Yaya Toure being the standout, but also David Silva, I'd say, has gotten a bit better. And Vincent Kompany, one of the few players that was there before the money came in. He's done not bad as well to become one of the finest centre-backs in the Premier League to date. Anyway, there we go. That is it about Manchester City. Tomorrow we'll be moving on to their crosstown rivals, Manchester United. And tomorrow is the video where I'll struggle to be as unbiased as possible. But I think I've done relatively well. Not to let my feelings be completely led astray. If you disagree or you agree, you can let me know by just leaving a comment down below. And yes, tune in tomorrow for our 10th video in the series, Manchester United season review. We'll be halfway through the reviews when that's done. Okay, that's all for today. Speak to you all probably tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye.